Hello and welcome to episode 56 of the Boxing Social podcast in association with Betfred. I'm your host, Declan Taylor. As always, my heartfelt appeal for you to like, comment, subscribe, share, everything else you can do with a video. Barry Jones is here, of course, former WBO super featherweight champion of the world. How you doing, Barry?
Yeah, I'm right, mate.
Are you?
No, I haven't moved, have I?
Yeah, I know.
I moved since the last
In fact,
podcast.
producer Tom, if you move, he really comes raining down on you like
I got
hellfire and
I got a
brimstone.
terrible dead leg. I'm frightened.
Haven't moved. You can't afford to move your head. Right, anyway.
I said to him, I'm a boxer. He said, I've seen your record, mate. Don't look scared of you.
Do you know, Barry, what we got today? You know it begins with an S and ends with an L.
Oh, well, you picked a boxer. I failed two.
No, it's not a boxer.
Failed two brain scans, and you're asking.
It's a special.
You're asking me. Oh, special.
Special like we do every week.
Oh.
It's a special, that was easy one.
I know what special is as well.
Yeah. Anyway, special time. The special today or this week. Well, is the context for it. Obviously, we're still waiting for Terence Crawford against Errol Spence Jr. We were expecting an announcement. At the time of filming, it hasn't happened. Hopefully, by the time this goes out, this bit's out of date because it has been signed. But we're thinking October, and now you're thinking, can it really be October? Anyway, not signed yet. We're getting dangerously close to the point, especially since Crawford left Top Rank, that if this fight doesn't get signed, it's probably never going to happen. We can consign it into that massive pile of fights that never happened that should have done.
Well, it ends up being, or if it does happen, it ends up being Pacquiao.
Too late.
Pacquiao and Mayweather, but without really, they're nowhere near as big a names as them. You know what I mean? It won't have it won't carry the same interest.
Yeah.
That's the problem you have. People are going about them because they're in their 30s now, so there's a risk.
Yeah, and you leave it another couple of years totally, and they haven't marinated, quote unquote, like Pacquiao and
and one might just, it's like when you get older, all of a sudden someone
loses.
dramatically declines in ability and skill and all the rest of it. But if the other one doesn't, then it becomes a mismatch.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to have a little look then at fights that never happened that we wished did. First of all, actually, again, at lightweight at the moment, we've talked about lightweights a lot, obviously this massive crop of them. We've got Shakur Stevens coming up and everything else going on there. I wanted to hear from you one fight you think out of that little batch that will happen and one that will join the long list of didn't happen but should have done.
Gervonta Davis boxing anybody. That's one that won't happen.
Do you think the chances have improved since he's left?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do think. I do, by the time
he's a free agent, I guess, at the moment.
Yeah, so that helps. I think that. Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
It's hard, isn't it? All of them.
It's hard to think who fight two.
It's hard.
You tend to think Haney Garcia could happen because they were the same people or the same network for now, but can you see it? I don't know. And you tend to think, this is obviously just before Garcia boxes Fortuna. So, but I don't know.
It's one of them where you think people have got to start
really
losing, haven't they, in that division before we start seeing it, really. You need a few defeats in there and then it becomes more easier to do deals.
All of a sudden you think, Lomachenko will be frozen out. No, because he's off the boil a little bit. And they're just like, shh, don't mention him.
Yeah.
Not
worth it.
Kambosos wants to rematch with Haney, of course, and Teofimo Lopez, if he just hasn't already moved up to super lightweight, he wants to box Haney rather than Kambosos because he want his revenge, but he want all the belts again, and that sort of thing. And yeah, so I don't know.
It's hard to match anything. Maybe
if Kambosos would have beat Haney, then I would have said Kambosos versus Teofimo Lopez was the easier fight to make. That's a rematch, and big money fight for him. But no, that didn't happen. It's one of those, I just can't see it. I wouldn't be shocked if none of them fight each other. I think Lopez will move up. God knows what's happened to Lomachenko. He can genuinely be frozen out. We've seen that before. And then, who would you have then? I don't know.
Garcia, Haney, someone like that you mentioned, or Tank against Haney for all the belts.
I don't know. See, I don't know. I'm not confident about it. I'm just not about any of them. It was all this. People were carried away calling them the new four kings and all the rest of it because they're all real talents. But there was never a realistic chance of them all being like in a round robin. Yeah. Never. No. Never was. Never. Then it would have been difficult back, many years ago. But now with multi-platforms, that's very.
It's almost impossible.
Especially for the money they won.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Well, you mentioned four kings there. Yeah. I reckon, and at lightweight, I reckon there's one in there at lightweight that we missed that you might have on your list.
Yeah.
Involving one of the four kings.
Well, involving the greatest lightweight that ever lived, ever walked out of the earth, which is Roberto Duran versus Alexis Aguero, which would have been just an unbelievable fight. Aguero was the super featherweight champion of the world at that time, and Duran was the unified, I believe. Get me right. I wasn't around. I was alive, but I wasn't around. Yeah, he was the unified champion, Roberto Duran, and Aguero moved up to lightweight.
Yeah, famously at light welter. And when you mentioned it, I was like, of course, yeah.
Lightweight, yeah. I know, because Aguero then boxes out on prior the two shots at light welter, of course, but the lightweight just seemed destined. I think they boxed the same guy. I think Duran stopped him, but Aguero went on points and had been more of a difficult time. Because Aguero, Aguero was a great boxer, but he could bang.
Yeah.
He's a big puncher. And Duran was a great puncher who at the time then had a fantastic chin. He'd been on the floor, but he had a great chin, and he beat everyone at lightweight. Ken Buchanan, Esteban de Jesus, he boxed the who's who of the lightweight division. He really had, and beat them all. Only lost to Esteban, but he got his revenge. And what a fight that would have been. I mean, what a war.
Yeah.
Two big punchers with great boxing brains, and it would have been just action-packed. That would have been the fight of the 70s.
Who wins?
Oh, Duran.
Yeah.
Yeah, Duran. I think Duran...
No, at lightweight.
At his best.
Yeah.
Was just the animal. Just the animal of all. Because he had all of the attributes that made him be successful right through the weights. But at his peak then, when he was more disciplined with the weights and all the rest of it, what a fighter.
Okay, bit more recent history, one that I've got written down, which we came tantalisingly close to getting twice, but we didn't, was David Haye against Tyson Fury. Now, first of all, at the time...
I think it's a shit fight.
At the time, what camp did you fall into? Because I know exactly hugely, same.
Of course. Because
I didn't see a chance of Fury winning that.
I never seen Fury as a world class fighter for a long time. I could see he had ability, and he was so big and tall, and he had lovely, and he did some lovely things. But I just thought his lack of structure, and what's made him a really good fighter, to be able to adapt, think on his feet. But back then he was more negative, and I just thought the fact that he made mistakes, he gives you opportunities to hurt him. He still does it now, by the way, but he's shown resolve that we didn't know he had at that time. And maybe he didn't know he had either. But he made mistakes. He gave you opportunities to hit him and hurt him. And just think, with David Haye at that time, and Tyson being untested, Fury being untested, I just think Haye would have been, to get underneath those long arms. Because Haye was small, heavy, but fast and explosive. But had that power to hurt you, even though you were twice the size of him. I thought he would have got him quick and bapped him with the right hand over the top.
Yeah. You still think that now? Obviously, we saw Fury struggle with
at that time. At that time, though, you'd have to fancy Haye. He had all the pedigree. He'd shown against higher opposition that he could be successful, and Fury hadn't. All Fury had was potential promise and size. That was it. To be honest, at the time. But the build-up was fantastic. Would have been even better if it had been continued, and it would have been an interesting night, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Haye Joshua. Sticking with those two, what do you reckon if David Haye had boxed Anthony Joshua? I guess it's different. It's difficult in
I think Joshua.
Which Haye? But even prime peak Haye?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do, yeah. Again, I think because Joshua at his best... I still think Fury's a better fighter overall, so we're not talking about that for people to have a go. But Joshua at his best as a structure. So I think if Haye finds it harder to find a gap, you got to make a mistake for Haye and he jumps on you and gets in quick. But if you've got a solid jab, as Klitschko, I know Joshua hasn't got the Klitschko jab, or movement, or boxing brain. But yeah, no, but I mean, he had a good jab.
Big boy,
he'd step behind,
punches,
big boy, and he could lean on you and all that. And I think Haye would have struggled with that. I think.
But even as we've seen with
He could
Joshua.
knock him out.
Yeah, when Joshua
Oh.
gets clipped, he
could knock. He could knock not everyone, but I think he
Yeah.
could, I don't know, maybe he could. He could knock you out. Yeah, he had tremendous power, and because he was so fast as well, that's what got you. You wouldn't see it. And look at the Chisora fight. No, Chisora was taking his shots when Haye boxed him. But there was one just great punch. It was a whipping shot across, and he didn't see it, and he's done.
Yeah.
Because Haye commits to every shot. That's why his tank runs empty quite quick. No.
And probably why his body sort of gave up on him in the end.
Yeah, because he's just 100% with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, he's sort of do or die, isn't he? It's a scenario where Haye would fight at times, not always. The Klitschko fight is a perfect example of that. But most of the time, when he really was up for it, he would do everything he could to knock you out. But I would fancy Joshua just to keep him on the end of that jab and stop him. Actually,
Really?
yeah, I think he stops here. Yeah, too big.
Just sticking on Joshua for a sec, because this one might still happen, but it won't happen to the same level and with the same context. The fact we never saw Joshua and Wilder, two undefeated world heavyweight champions, is obscene, really, isn't it?
It's like, and we might not see it.
Yeah.
Still, and it's like, I got it on my list here, right? So of Foreman and Shavers,
Yeah.
the two biggest punchers of the 70s, not boxing each other. And just think, how did they not fight each other? In a generation where they all fought each other.
Everyone fought each other, yeah.
And that fight, Joshua and what's his name, the Wilder, back then at that particular year, couple of years, was that sort of fight.
Yeah. I
know they both had world titles, but Foreman and Shavers never had a world title, but he was world class in any other generation. He wins a world title. So it's that sort of fight. I can't think. You have to compare it to that in many ways. Yep. Two of the biggest punchers in the division, two massive, huge punchers. Certainly one bigger than the other probably, and the meeting. It's a shame we never seen that in the 70s, and a shame we didn't see this one recently. And if we see it now, it's still a good fight to watch, but it's tainted.
Yeah.
And a fight now that I'm not sure. I fancied Joshua huge at the time. Same. Actually, because I thought Wilder's erratic and his punches come over, and Joshua was right down the track with his punches. Because as much as you say about Joshua, he got good technique, and so especially when he was fearless, he was for a while fearless.
Well, certainly at that point when it should have happened, he was totally fearless at that point.
So he knew he'd get hurt. His sole focus was on hurting you, and he boxed more. When I look back now, he boxed more than what I remember.
Yeah,
but still, he was still always, the thought was always about hurting you, and he enjoyed it. And you'd see every time he knocked someone down, he had a big smile on his face, and Wilder was knocking people out for fun.
Underrated counterpuncher as well, Joshua.
Yeah.
He'd always look to slip outside the jab and come over the top.
Do this with his feet. He'd step in and out like that.
A little
boom, boom, out like that. So make you miss, make you pay sort of thing at a closer range. But still, ultimately, it was still about just land this big right hand on you and then see how you feel after that.
Yeah.
And I think that when they're both swinging shots, if they both hit at the same time, Joshua's done, I feel. But I think Joshua gets there before him because Wilder goes like this and Joshua goes like right down the middle and gets there first. Because Joshua used to step with that front foot, see? He used to close the gap, so he'd go boom and he'd take a step with the front foot and then he'd be close enough for the right hand and Wilder would be punching over the back of his head. Because Wilder, as dangerous as he is, all his power
needs the range.
He can actually, he's not people close to be fair, but he doesn't have control of his arms as well. He flings his shots.
The good, I'm thinking stoppages, the Ortiz one and the Brazil one, proper long, as he says, at the tip of the whip, like right at the end of his extension. That's where the power.
People think all the power punches, all these full of muscles, short, stocky, little that, they hit you and they punch you into the wall. They do. The power, the weight of the shot do, but all the ones that really hurt are those long, tall ones.
Yeah, Tommy Hearns.
Yeah.
Mark Breland.
I boxed called Paul Samuels in the Welsh senior final. Paul was a really good middleweight. Had Richard Williams and Wayne Alexander. Yeah. Really wars with them. They had that great Cello Render fight where they both knocked each other down.
Yeah.
That was at the end of his career. But he was a really good fighter, Paul, wasn't I? Beat him he was a featherweight, like 6 foot featherweight. I beat him in the Welsh ABA finals. But honestly, he hit me with the right hand. Like my nose was like bigger than my head. I honestly, God, just boom! I beat him. I found a way to win. But a tall, skinny guy. Look at him. How can he punch? Good technique like that. Especially if you've got speed, because it's coming from there. So I'd rather fight a guy full of muscles, me. You can block that. It'll hit you here against the wall, but it doesn't knock you out. And tall, like fellas like you are slender, you get that whip on your shot. The end of it's brilliant. That's a brilliant analogy. On the end of the whip.
Yeah. Tip of the whip. Yeah.
You don't see it. The tip of the
tip of the whip. That's what Wilder said.
Sexual, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tip of the whip.
Yeah. We'll move on. Well, okay then. Well, what about Shavers and George Foreman if they box? What would you have picked? Bearing in mind, obviously, Ernie Shavers may be the biggest heavyweight puncher, maybe the biggest of all time.
Yeah, he is. But at that.
But then Larry Holmes got up.
Yeah.
What does Foreman do?
But as Larry Holmes.
Yeah.
You know,
what does Foreman do?
Yeah, I know.
If he gets caught by Ernie Shavers.
Yeah, I don't know. But Foreman had a great chin.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's one of them, isn't it? It's the same with Wilder Joshua. It's like, who do you...
Both massive punches, like both could take a good shot, and yeah, I don't know who I'd fancy.
That's why we should have seen it.
Oh,
bit late now.
And Fraser and Norton.
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? That they all fought each other. See, we
fell through
we
the
romanticise about yesterday. I do it about the 80s, because that was like when I fell in love with boxing. So, and it was a great year. Everyone boxed everyone, but they didn't box everyone. Didn't box everyone, but it seemed that way because things seemed simpler. But they seemed simpler because we didn't have the access to all the behind the scenes crap that we have now. We didn't have people like you wouldn't speak to promoters 3 times a week.
No,
because there's no need to.
We don't even need to anymore because they just tweet it now. So we've gone full circle.
We all got information. We all know everything, and it's too much. It's all muddled, and before you wouldn't hear it. So if a big fight was announced, oh yeah, brilliant. But actually, it was. I think it's still a little bit better. I think they're more willing to fight each other then because otherwise they couldn't earn no money. There's different directions now with different broadcasters and stuff. But still, we romanticise about it. But they did. The 70s was the golden era of heavyweight boxing in my mind. But the fact that Fraser never boxed Norton and Foreman never boxed Shavers, that's 2 great fights that we missed out on.
Fell through.
Like 2 all-time great fights we missed out on.
Yeah. Okay, I've got a couple of British ones. Give us a non-British one, a fight that didn't happen that you might have on your list.
Eric Morales versus Juan Manuel Marquez.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's one of them. You just sort of think it happened, but it didn't.
So Marquez, though I think the ages are around fairly similar, Marquez seemed to just come on the back of Morales and Barrera's time.
Yeah.
But he boxed Barrera. A faded Barrera maybe.
Yeah.
But in Morales would have been a great fight. It's like, how can that be? Like Morales would not. No, he'd slip a few. He never dodged the fight. He'd slipped a few punches, but probably wouldn't bother about doing that because he was one of the bravest fighters you hope to live. And Marquez, thought process is brilliant. One of the best. The way you can see his brain working every time he's boxing all the time, always thinking about what to do next. And he only got beat really by guys who were just full of energy, like Pacquiao. No, they would just out hustle him. Oh, did my belly rumble?
Yeah, starving.
I'm hungry for that.
That's what Marquez thinking.
Hungry for that fight.
When he's thinking about his next combination, he's starving.
Yeah, I call them innies.
It's called it what?
The rumblings, like inside farts. I don't know.
Tell us about the fight again, quick.
Yeah, what a fight that would have been, though.
Yeah.
Around that, what we saw, 2000,
yeah, but you're right.
3, 4, something like that.
Morales maybe just a bit old at that point. But it's all about timing. It's all about timing.
But I think that fight could have been made.
Yeah.
I think that was. I think Morales still had enough in his legs
he did.
to make that a good hard fight.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Who wins?
But never. At that time, probably Marquez. I think Morales. Well, yeah, he wins. Yeah, I think he wins. Yeah. I was going to say Morales is probably the better fighter overall, but that's me romanticising about how great he was.
Yeah.
Marquez is probably the better fighter overall, actually.
Yeah.
The more rounded of them.
Yeah, which is amazing to think, really.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Okay, in Britain, obviously the one that we always talk about is the one that got away is Ricky Hatton against Junior Witter.
Yeah.
Which is not, obviously, it got away, but there are quite good reasons for it when you really think about it. For me, it felt like at the time Ricky Hatton just sort of outgrew the fight. Didn't outgrow the opponent in Junior Witter, but he outgrew the fight.
Markability.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
And Hatton knew that.
See, Junior Witter was one of those fighters, like, who wants to fight him?
Yeah.
Who wants to... It's just no money in it, and he's horrible. Even if you thought you could generally be, even if not you, boxers would fight. Especially back then. You just
especially Hatton.
You did what you were told. Well, by the way, more than ever before. Now, then and before then, you just did what you were told. You're fighting him. Good. How much is it? Brilliant. but the promoters, they're going to go, it's not going to be a great fight, because for Junior Witter to beat Hatton,
he's got to stink
he's
it
got
out.
to negate everything Hatton does, and he had the ability to do that. To be fair, I still would have favoured Hatton, but it would have been a horrible, hard fight and a dirty fight, because Hatton could fight dirty, and Junior could tie you up in knots, and it would have been a frustrating night and not a great spectacle. I don't feel.
It's funny as well, because it would have been at the Manchester Arena or something, sold out by Hatton, and Witter would have had, no one would have come to see Witter in that sense, which is again another reason why that fight never really happened.
And another reason why another fight didn't happen was Hatton versus Cottle, which is a great fight. Like
At light welter.
Light welter, super lightweight now. We get with the times.
No, I'm not saying that.
But no, because Cottle was quite vulnerable at that, because he was like always struggling to make the weight. But that fight never happened because they both sold too many tickets. I think, to be honest. I mean, they were both TV attractions. So you got HBO, where Richie Cotto was his home, and Madison Square Garden
MSG,
was his home as well. And you got Hatton there. Obviously, Sky is his home, and that Manchester Arena is his home.
And then Vegas.
So either way, with them two, you can take at that particular time. You can take him away from their home, can you? You're taking one. He's going, I know, like Bob Adams going to go, but look, well, we sell like 20,000 seats there, and HBO do like 800,000 buys or whatever, and they're going, but we're selling also 20,000 seats in the MEN or whatever it's called.
It really makes no sense to put them together.
Not for them, no. And they go and they say what we did with Warrington and Frampton.
Yeah.
I thought that was a similar scenario. On a smaller scale, a similar scenario with Warrington and Frampton, which did happen. But you take them out of there, they're both massive ticket sellers in their home thing. But the TV thing worked out. That's the different. There you got two different TV companies as well. I know they're different parts of the world, so that could have worked. But still, someone's paying more than the other company for the fight, and
And in the end, TV companies, when you really look down the list, particularly in the last 20 years, 30 years, the ones that we've missed have basically been because of TV.
Yeah, of course,
politics.
Well, they're investing in their product, aren't they? So I understand that. But, but as a sports fan, we shouldn't be caught up on that. We just want to see the best fights, don't we? But again, I think that's the whole thing, because sometimes you can be too successful in your home city. All that roll of crowds, brilliant. But I think what no one realised with Hatton later on is that all his band of lunatics followed him.
Yeah, they would have gone to
anyway,
Sheffield.
and that's what that's what Warrington's saying. They'll follow me.
They will, because they will.
Yeah,
and it's a shame what happened. Obviously, back in business now, but getting beaten by Lara put the boot proper into the.
Because Ricky Knight's in Vegas.
Yeah,
it's just.
Well, I think Warrington would, maybe not to the same extent, but I think you'd have that sort of vibe. Same with Frampton when he boxed over there in Vegas against Santa Cruz. The same thing happened where they do travel. I think they would with Warrington. Okay, sticking just quickly in Sheffield, one that we didn't see, and in that very gym actually, Harold Bomber-Graham and Chris Eubank never fought. Obviously the man, and we spoke about this before, Harold Graham may be the best sort of British fighter to never win a world title. And Eubank doesn't pull any punches, pun intended, when he talks about this fight. Didn't want to fight him because you couldn't hit him.
Of course, again, Harold Graham was one of those, wasn't he?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Why do you want to fight him?
Yeah. Why do you want to fight him?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not how it should be, but it's unfortunately how it is. You can be too good for your own good.
And they famous, the old Ingle clip where he says that he stood him on his head in sparring.
I can believe that though.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he's going to beat you.
No. Well, also I think it's in Johnny Nelson's autobiography. I believe he says that Eubank in the end worked him out after a week of sparring and stopped him, or floored him and knocked him out or whatever.
But someone like that sort of style is always going to beat you in sparring. Someone who's elusive, because the different intensity, the bigger gloves and all the rest of it, they're always going to be more difficult. But sometimes on a night when it's more intense and everything sort of senses are sharper, it's harder to be that elusive in that situation. I'm not saying it's impossible. Some great fighters can do it. Harold Graham could do it. Actually, he's one of them. Naz could do it at his best. Before he just thought all he was a puncher. People forget that.
Yeah.
What good he was with his power, with his movement, as well as his punch power. Yeah, it's a shame. Now.
So on the night, with the smaller gloves under the light, so to speak, who wins that fight?
I think Eubank catches up with him. Actually,
in a not a great spectacle.
In a not great spectacle, that Harold Graham is walking.
One of them.
Yeah, definitely one of those.
Like Julian Jackson.
Oh yeah, like that, but longer.
Yeah.
Like it's just like you're talking around 10, 11, possibly 12.
Yeah.
But he put because what Eubank was tough as anybody, and and people should have known that after the first Ben fight, to be honest, because that was a horribly hard fight. But he didn't really get that sort of real stamp of that until he boxed at 2 weights above his natural weight at cruiserweight against Carl Thompson. When everyone fell in love with him, because he just he just took his lumps off a guy who was just too big for him. And,
yeah.
And so he didn't really get that real. I don't think. Am I right in saying that?
No, I think that's about right. It was right at the end.
Yeah, but he was like horribly tough. And he threw that right down. He threw that right down sometimes. That was a defensive move, that was.
Well, look at Watson. He'd just been down before he threw that.
I know he threw that big right hand over the top. So that one always to throw. That wasn't always to hit you. That was sometimes to keep you away.
And, yeah.
You just throw it.
Yeah.
Because he knows, whoa, I'm not going to take that. And you just back away. Like, get away. He's knackered. You come around, you just go whap, and you back up, and you go, I got a bit of a rest.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fight. I tell you another fight we never saw,
Cool.
which should have happened, is Ben versus Roy Jones.
Yeah, that whole era, because we do talk a lot about it, and it was a great era of Ben and Watson and Eubank, and then latterly, Steve Collins. But the one big thing missing from that
was the best fighter on the planet.
Yeah,
the best fighter in the division.
Yeah,
he was standalone the best fighter.
Mm-hmm.
No, we always go back to one champion in each weight and all that. Well, they're never world champions then, because Roy Jones reigns supreme. That's the truth of it.
Yeah,
but he wouldn't have had it easy with Ben. And he beats Ben like he boxes him. But Ben's one of those unique characters who just looks like he's also off balance, brings his back foot forward, squares his feet up, makes mistakes, but his will to want to win, not will to win, because he knows his will to want to win is greater than most of the fighters. That's what made him successful. Not his punch power, because he was a tremendous puncher. That will to go through any door to beat you was just unbelievable. He would do anything to beat you. McKellen fight alone.
McKellen, in the first round, he had to get off the commentary table.
He didn't know where he was.
Yeah.
He's getting back. He's trying to get up, but he don't know where he's going. That's so bad. He was out. He was. I bet you couldn't see. There's a guy. I was talking about. We mentioned a while ago on a previous podcast about Derek Chisora being. I said like the most reactive fighter I can remember. Actually, since Nigel Benn. Because he was a guy there who was at his most dangerous when he had nothing left, when he was knackered and hurt and looked a beaten man. He would find from nowhere the inspiration to rattle off a combination or the big punch or just run at you. And it was only later on in his career where when Collins got him, way past his sell by day. To be fair, that's the truth. Collins came into a great time for himself. But to be fair, Collins came in at a time when they were all on their last legs. Yeah,
but getting his timing, isn't it?
But Collins also did a great apprenticeship.
To
be fair, he boxed him
down the East Coast.
But he also had a couple of cracks at World title against really good fighters and couldn't get over the line. So he deserved a bit of luck. But Ben versus Jones would have been a great fight.
Do you think out of those that little clutch of British fighters, Ben gives Jones the best fight or has the best chance of winning or the most entertaining of that fight? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I know. Ironically, he got beat by Eubank, and he would have been the Tommy Hearns of that quartet. Yeah, the one who lost.
If you're talking about the Fabulous Four, or the Four Kings, now they're called. I always thought they were the Fabulous Four, to be honest.
Yeah, thinking about the Beatles, that's it.
That's the Fab Five, you idiot. There used to be a video called the Fabulous Four. That's why I always think they were Fabulous Four with Leonard, Duran, Hearns, and Hagler. But I still think he had the best chance because his will to win was they all had great wills to win, but his was just better than others. I think, and yeah, I do think that. But none of them beat Roy Jones. That's the truth. So it's irrelevant. No, actually.
I'll tell you someone else who nobody beat. Your old mate Joe Calzaghe. Now, the Carl Froch fight never happened, of course, and it's kind of mutated into a fantasy fight, really. But there was a little crossover.
No, there wasn't.
Timing wise, talk us through it.
There wasn't. Don't make.
Talk us through the context back then.
The closest you could have got, I think now. I think Froch beats Robin Reid, maybe. And then did he win the British title just before that, just after that?
Yeah. Just before.
What's that? That's what that.
Yeah.
So 2006.
Yeah, it would have been about that. Yeah.
Joe's already done, but I know Joe had the Hopkins fight and the Roy Jones fight. But
he's got no reason to fight a young, up and coming British.
No, but he's up and coming. But he's nowhere near the. Where is he?
He's not a big name. Yeah.
He just won a British title around that age. He
true.
beat Robin Reid, who again an older Robin Reid, but Joe was done. His hands were done, and all that. That's why Joe Calzaghe. I say to him, he should have boxed Kelly Pavlik after Hopkins. He was a school Pavlik, got more money than he got for boxing Roy Jones, got more credit for beating a young guy who was just battering everybody at the time. Kelly Pavlik was, and Joe would have battered him, would totally outboxed him, just as ironically Bernard Hopkins did after the Calzaghe fight. But Joe knew his hands were done. You see Joe's hand left hand, it was like that, and his hands were done. He put injection in his hands all the time. His body was just broken down, and he knew that before the Hopkins fight. Like he knew it. So he took the Roy Jones fight because it was safe. That's the truth. And he wanted to go to Madison Square Gardens, which you could have done that with Pavlik and would have been even in better fight. And he wanted to say he shared the ring with a legend. And actually, it was a really great fight to watch. Yeah. But that's the reason why. So the box, even if Froch would have been at his peak at that time, and then Joe's already out the door, he don't take the fight because why would he take the fight? Yeah, it's just too much of a risk now.
A bit like, to be honest, what Froch did with De Gale, because De Gale was his mandatory challenger at that point. He won on the undercard, and it was sort of one of them where he's like.
But was Froch ever Joe's mandatory challenger?
No, of course, no.
So that's I'm not defending Joe because he's Welsh, but I am.
First and foremost, yeah.
But again, if he was a mandatory challenger, you could say that fight could have been happening. But I still think that Carl Froch was still domestic level, though the king of it, and obviously going to move up. Actually, there was no signs of Froch could be as good as he turned out to be. No. He was all tough and strong. Didn't have the profiles either. Yeah, the great amateur. People forget, Froch was a really good amateur. World silver medalist,
World silver, yeah. Or was it bronze?
Bronze. And David Hare world silver, didn't he? Yeah. Same year in Belfast, wasn't
he? In fact, I think Froch the first ever English medal winner at the World Champs.
Wow.
By a couple of hours, because Haye would have boxed out the same after.
Yeah. So, you forget, you don't win that just on having a big punch and a chin.
And no jab.
The box, yeah. So, but then the whole thing's... But I still think, ultimately, in my opinion, put them to their peak, whenever their peaks were, them to their very best, that's it. Just them to their very best. And it's a really hard, tough fight that Joe wins.
Yeah. And at that point, okay then.
9 times out of 10.
You reckon?
I think so, yeah. Froch is fantastic. So you can't argue with how good he was and how tough and a great career, but ultimately, Joe was brilliant. When he was good,
too good.
He was sexy good.
So, okay then. So at the time, then forget peaks. Joe's hands are done. He's out the door. He's just about finished. But for some strange reason, he does take the Froch fight at that point.
He still beats him. I think he knows too much.
Old man's him, yeah.
I think he knows too much at that point of Froch's career.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a perfect example. Forget his name now. The one he boxed in Connecticut. Jermaine Taylor,
yeah.
There you go. He outboxes him at that time. Again, Froch's will to win.
Yeah.
Finds the punch of all punches, but he's losing the fight up until the last, what was it, like 40 seconds or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the
last
minute.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? No, it was so, great. But he's losing.
It might be 10 seconds.
He wasn't getting totally outboxed by it. He's losing the fight. Well, he was getting outboxed, but he wasn't like a landslide.
But if don't get the stoppage, so he's lost the fight.
But Joe still had enough speed, I think, to do that. It might have been a closer fight than Taylor, because Joe was on his... But Joe's engine was phenomenal, even at that age, 37 or something.
Yeah, he knew how to manage the rounds.
But his engine was... he could still throw the punches around.
Yeah.
He couldn't punch anymore.
Yeah.
He was never a big puncher anyway, Joe. He never had a huge puncher anyway. He always slapped with his punches, but his hands were done. So he couldn't do it. He didn't even try to punch anymore, because he knew he couldn't do it. So he just, I can't punch. Why I try now?
Yeah.
I mean, every time he had to have injection in his hands every time he boxed for the last few years of his career. Like, that's the truth of it.
Yeah, he's not worth it for a young Carl
No,
Froch
but he
at
still
that point.
beats him at that time. But then he gets no credit for that. Well, you just beat the guy. You just beat the British champion. Well done.
Yeah,
No, I guess he gets slagged off for it.
yeah, it's true.
But still, peak for peak, I still think he wins. But yeah, it's a shame. Again, it's only a few years though. You drag Joe back 3 years, and you fast forward 3 years of Froch, and all of a sudden, that's the fight of all fights, isn't it?
Yeah, massive one. Any more good ones that you got back?
I got loads of good ones. What do you want?
Go on, give
I
us.
got Mosley versus Trinidad.
Yeah, that, again, it's one of those ones you just sort of assume.
2001ish. So they've both beaten De La Hoya.
Yeah,
One, both close, but Trinidad I think was very lucky. But then like, that fight could have been made. I think at the time they were like top 5 pound for pound, maybe
Yeah.
top 2.
potentially one of those
Yeah.
race 1 and 2.
Yeah.
A bit like Ward Kovalev at the time was 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But maybe wasn't.
So but Trinidad went up the middleweight.
Yeah.
To box Hopkins.
Yeah. Can't really blame him.
Yeah. Can't blame him. It's a bigger money fight and all the rest of it. But I mean, and we missed it. That would have been a great fight.
Yeah. Who wins that? So I like
Trinidad.
Mosley in that. See, I like Mosley in that fight.
At Trinidad, I just think I think the reach and the height and the power. Mosley's brilliant, like, and how he adapted to go through the weights. Again, one of the greatest lightweights ever, by the way. And he was lethal at lightweight, unbelievable. But he skipped light welter, didn't he? Super lightweight to us new fans.
Light welter.
No, and went straight at the welterweight, didn't he? Went straight at the welterweight. He did Roberto Duran.
But again, where the money was really, wasn't it? That time.
Yeah, well, De La Hoya. And the same with I-Quarty versus Felix Trinidad.
Yeah,
another fight.
great one.
That's a great fight. That is unbelievable fight. But again, because one just loses to De La Hoya, and the other one just beats him. Both contentious there. And I remember the Quarty fight. I think that was the night I boxed Peter Judson for.
I thought you were going to say it was the night you proposed or something.
No, I meant. But either way, that never happened because they're both chasing De La Hoya.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
They don't want to. No one's a risk because De La Hoya was the money fight. Like,
It's a bit like
people forget.
Canelo now, aren't we?
But people forget how big De La Hoya was.
Yeah.
He was bigger than everyone. He was God. He was bigger than God at the time. He literally was. Like,
Yeah,
he was.
it's the lottery, wasn't it? You get.
He was a beautiful looking man. No, whether he was in fishnets or not.
I mean, look at them as well.
No model looking guy.
Yeah.
Could sing, great boxer, was tough. No, just beat Chavez a couple of times.
Yeah.
No, which didn't help him in the Mexican side of his heritage, of course. He's Mexican American, speaks mainly Spanish. Let's be honest as well. People forget that.
Yeah.
I think he literally walks on me in the time in Spanish. I met him I saw him in Pasadena once. I took my dad to Vegas. My dad and his wife to Vegas. Me and my missus, and we stayed in Pasadena, in Las Vegas, which is in Los Angeles. And we go in this diner, and I sat down. He sat over there with I don't know who he's with, a couple of girls, younger girls. So it would have been his daughter, I guess, or something. And I meet. And I just said to my dad, really casual. I went, De La Hoya over there, Dad. And my dad's gone. Go and tell him you won the same belt as him. I go, yeah, you'll love that. You'll love that. Yeah. Oh yeah, I won the same belt as you. You go, well,
Should have done it. Next time you see him, you got to tell him.
But the thing is, I won it after him, and I look about 15 years older than he does. When did you? I'll tip about 5 years after you, mate. Oh. But again, because Trinidad and everyone was, they were all chasing.
Getting it with Canelo now.
Yeah, they were all chasing. Yeah, they were all chasing De La Hoya, rightly so. But that would have been a really good fight. About those two big welterweights, a good punch, especially Trinidad. Trinidad at welterweight, though he was vulnerable.
That's what I wonder about. Mosley might have just outthought him.
No, the look dropped him, didn't he?
Yeah.
Kevin Lucien.
Yeah, exactly.
Kevin the Look Lucien. Remember him? He got punched, but he dropped. He got battered in the end, but he dropped Trinidad.
Yeah.
In 97, 98.
Right, give us one more, and I reckon light heavyweight.
Oh, you guys!
This is one of my.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Was it
Kovalev versus Adonis Stevenson?
Because I just jogged my memory when I mentioned Kovalev. That one, we never saw that.
Everything about that, because I don't want to get sued here, but Kovalev has said a few things about authenticity. Maybe he didn't mean it, but he called Adonis Stevenson a few things about his appearance, and it looked and sounded and appeared to be racist. Yeah, that's what it looked like. Let's be honest, that's what it looked like. And so why you'd want to upset Adonis Stevenson, I don't know why. But then when you're a fearful puncher like Kovalev, you think you're God. That's the problem. You're batting everyone people put in front of you. Like the way he you come with. I remember when Kovalev came with the Cardiff, and they're all saying it was a good hard fight for Nathan Cleverley.
None of us really knew.
Yeah. Well, we knew Kovalev could punch, but at what level?
Yeah.
And Dan Boone had given really hard scrap.
dropped him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And you're going, well, you know.
Oh, no, sorry, Boone dropped Ward. I don't think he
Yeah,
dropped
but he took him. You have a draw maybe with Kovalev, maybe?
Potentially, yeah.
Or whatever it was. But
No, I think he stopped him late, I believe.
But either way, he had a hard night, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, you know, Cleverley takes a good shot.
Yeah.
And he's really 100 miles an hour. And Kathy Duver, who, by the way, is one of the, I don't know about now, but back then, it was 2013. So she must have been in her 50s.
Steady.
Like that. One of the sexiest women you ever meet in person. Can I say that? What's wrong with that?
I mean, you carry on.
Extremely attractive woman when you meet her in person. You look at her in pictures, you don't think nothing of her. When you meet her, she has some sort of magnetic personality that you just go, whoa, unbelievable. Like I followed her around. I followed her around like a little, Joe, can I get you a cup of tea, love? And all that. But she was in the ring, right? Regardless of all that crap. She was in the ring with me and Bunsey. We did a little feature for Box Nation. And when we were saying about this is a 50-50 fight, she was laughing.
Chuckling.
No,
Yeah.
she was like, Jimmy was just going, yeah. Like she knew.
Yeah.
She was like, yeah. Like she had everyone's pants down.
Yeah.
We're going to come over here. We're just going to we're walking away with this. And,
Yeah.
well.
And they did.
I think they shot her and, so guys, do us a favour, take him a couple of rounds.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Terry O'Connor walking back to the
Yeah, I don't know.
in between.
But yeah, it was awful that one.
Yeah.
But Nathan's tough. Nathan's after how tough and hard he is.
Exactly.
But he's fearful. And Adonis Stevenson.
Well, it's like two guys you mentioned there. They're like God. The two of them were punching like that and were so fearless and so confident. One of those fights where they're just guaranteed.
And both on HBO.
Yeah.
Weren't they?
Yeah.
They were, weren't they? Both on HBO. Again, like everything I don't know why that never happened actually, because there's almost no reason for it not to happen. It was the A side, but then neither one's a massive enough star.
No, they both needed each other at that point.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It was just a fight that had to be made, unless they wanted to make them bigger names.
Yeah.
To make it a pay-per-view and a proper pay-per-view, or maybe the TV company went, listen, it's a great fight, but it's not going to sell a ticket.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's only because obviously when it comes to pay-per-view fights, it has to transcend the sport to make money. That's why
I believe all Kovalev, the first one, did like less than 100,000, or a tiny number.
Yeah.
In the context of that fight and what it meant for boxing.
Well, if that already happened before that was talk of this fight, then they see that and they go, there you go.
Yeah.
We can't make it happen.
Yeah.
I understand that much, but it's a shame because that would have been I don't know. I sort of fancy Kovalev.
Yeah, who
he
wins?
Off
the back of it now, I would think Kovalev outworks him in that fight and maybe neutralises him a bit.
But then also, that big right down to Stevenson, that comes right over the top, almost Dennis Andres type thing, that you can't read it. You can see it coming, but you can't read it.
Do you know what I mean? Lands, you're in trouble. Yeah,
that's Dennis Andres was like that. You can see it because it's just crude, but you just can't stop it. Tony Bellypull will tell you that.
Yeah.
And I can say, I can see it. Why can't I get out of the way of it? Because it's like an extra 2 foot in length or something, or he shouldn't be getting you. It's like a missile.
Tip of the whip. Yeah.
No, but it's not just a thrown. It was weird how he'd throw it. Like he's just really looping, like crude shot. But he'd always find a home for it. And he had raw power as well, and so did Kovalev. And Kovalev was a neat. I always ended to go in with, like as I mentioned with Joshua and Wilder, with the neater fighter.
Yeah.
To be honest. And
more fundamentals.
Kovalev was certainly that, and his jab was solid.
Yeah.
But it's really who catches the other one first.
Like a lot of these, and maybe that's why it didn't happen. Because there's too much risk, too much jeopardy, not enough to control. That sort of felt like why Wilder Joshua never happened at that point, because neither of them could afford, or he probably could actually looking back on it, but you couldn't afford Joshua to get chinned there in a couple of rounds.
And it's not always the boxers; it's the people who are around them.
Of course,
because they're living, it's their investment.
Yeah.
They go, oh, that's just too much of a risk, Like they're at the level now where they're talking about these massive, huge fights now. Like they just go, it doesn't matter because if you lose, you take 150 million.
Yeah.
Or 50 million, 100 million, whatever they get a stupid get for these huge, crazy fights with Joshua and if Joshua wins now against Usyk, because this is after the fight, he might win. Well, congratulations. But him and Fury, then you cannot no one mind's taking the risk there because the money is just ridiculous.
Too big.
Yeah, it's too big.
Well, that was a good one to finish on, Barry. lovely picks there. Let's hope that Crawford and what's his name, Spence, doesn't end up in that pile. Fingers crossed.
Let's hope so.
Happens or not?
I don't think it does.
Oh, okay. All right, Barry, thanks for your time. And as always, thanks so much for you to watching. And hopefully we'll see you at the next one.